Hey guys, how are you? It's Bricks Nostalgia here, and today what I would like to do is to review this vintage Lego Technic build that is an excavator coming from this idea book from 1980, number 8888. Okay, the build is this one that you see in this page. And the reason why I wanted to build it is because it looks as weird as hell, and there was something that got me very curious about it at the very end of the instruction of it, which is in this page, where it's shown that these plate with these racks on top of it is supposed to control the movements of the build. So I decided I couldn't understand exactly what that was about, so I decided to build it and try to understand more about it. Okay, so this is the build. It's very big. I'm just gonna take one minifigure just for you to have a bit of an idea of the difference in terms of size. As you can see, it's a very big build, and the build itself is very accurate. I use pretty much all the pieces, or the same pieces used in the instructions in the book. The only big difference is this one that you see here, this grey box. Is just made of bricks, but it's it should have instead 4.5 battery box, 4.5 volts battery box from the 80s that is supposed to wire to control the motor that is under here on the bottom. I don't have that box, so I just built a box made of bricks just to keep things in the same shape, and then in order to power up the motor for the demonstration later, I'm just gonna use my 12 volt or 4.5 volt transformer for 12 volt Lego trains. Okay, so let's move straight away to the review of the build. I have to say, guys, that this is going to be a pretty long review because there's a lot of things going on in this build. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so at the first look, the build looks very odd. It has very weird proportions, but this is due mainly to all the gearing that is inside here that was made in a certain way, and then forced the build to be of this shape. The build is made of two main sections. This one is the bottom one, and this one being the upper one. Pretty much everything going on is under here, while this is mainly just for the looks, and here there's just a very few gears that are going to be in contact with all the gearing system that is under here, but the most of these could be removed. So what I'm gonna do is and also this whole system works, there's two different independent systems working in this build. One is the one related to the motor that is here on the bottom that I'm gonna show you in a second. That is the one powered up with the transformer, and is the one that allows the build to move back and forward. And then there is an independent system here made of a whole bunch of gears that controls the movement of the cabin, the top cabin, and the movement of the weight in order to control it when it goes up and down. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is to split the two sections, and we're gonna focus on this first one. Okay guys, so I removed the top section in order to make it more comfortable and easy for me to move things around. So this whole build is the core of the whole, this section is the core of the whole build. As you can see over here, there is a huge amount of axles with various gears set in this way. And then there is a bottom part here with a little motor that connects, that is connected to the trucks here through a huge amount of gears. The gear system works this way. Here is the motor. It goes all the way here, then it moves right and left over this whole set of gears, then it goes all the way to the back of it, and axle moves again to the other direction, and then it connects through this chain to the axle that moves these gears. Now the reason why the system had to be made so complicated was to gear down the motor. I calculated the gear ratio, and it's 560 to 1 with this whole amount of gearing, which means that for one turn of these gear here, 560 of these little motor have to be done. The reason for it is that this motor is a very fast motor, that's about 4,000 revolutions per minute, so this whole gearing was needed in order to give it a more normal speed. Now I'm gonna show you powering up the system how fast this is going to be. Okay, so let's power it up. So there it is, and this is how fast it is when it moves, which is very slow, I would say. So when it was now I'm gonna switch it off and power it up the opposite direction, and this is working properly. This is just the speed of it. I did 2 checks, and you can see that that's the speed of it. I'm gonna show you the whole gearing system. It's working just fine, but here the very heavy gearing down starts here. You can see how slow this is, and then it continues even further with these last few gears over here. It's geared down to a gear ratio of 560 to 1. I think or an interesting exercise could be to gear it down a bit less in order to make it work a bit faster, but yeah, this is an exercise that I leave to anyone that is interested in building this model as well. Okay, so this is pretty much it for the very first independent part of this bottom section, which was the motor. This is what the motor does, and it's all the motor does. Okay, and there's nothing else that is done. The interesting part is going to be here. So what I'm gonna show you here very briefly is this part of the build, the bottom build, which is the one that is going to be engaged with this plate and these racks. Okay, so let me find the racks. So this is the system of racks and gears. So what is supposed to happen, that is just in the build, is that when you put this plate with the gears with the racks in this particular position, what's supposed to happen is that these are going to engage in a certain order, and what's supposed to happen is that the whole build is supposed to move in a certain way. Once you put this back on top, that, as you can see, has some gears over here that will start engaging with these gears moved by the plate. Okay, so and this is pretty much all there is to this upper section of the build. There's not much more. It's just a whole bunch of bricks, but there's just a few there are just a few gears here, and then a few gears over here that are the ones that are important for the build, but for the rest it's part that can be removed. Okay, so let me put things together, and we're gonna get a close-up on we're gonna go a bit more in details on how this whole thing works. Okay, so what is the whole concept behind this build is that basically you're supposed to be able to manually program the movements of the build through the distribution that is made using these racks as that you see here. So in order to show you what I mean, let me not use this one, but let me use this one that has just one line, and let's see how each line works in let's see how each line works when engaged. Okay, so I can tell you already now that the last two, so if this is number 1, this is going to be number 6. I can tell you already now that number 5 and 6 are not going to engage anything. So let's start with number 1 and let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm gonna put it in, and what you can see is that line number 1 is going to be moving this base up and down. Okay, if you do the same for the other ones, you will see the number 1 and 3, I think, are going to be related to the movement of the cabin into these directions, while the other 2, maybe 2 and 4, are the ones related to lift and lower down these big weight. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to take this one and show you through a few attempts what this configuration is going to, what type of movement is going to involve. Okay, so here we are. This is the plate with the racks on top, and what's supposed to happen based on how I arranged the distribution of the racks is this. On this first line, this little rack is supposed to get the cabin to move towards the camera. Then these 3 racks are supposed to allow this load to be lifted up, and you can see that for the fact that these 2 racks are parallel to each other or start at the same time, you should see that a bit of lifting of the load should happen at the same time as this cabin moves towards the camera. And then on this second section you should see the opposite, a bit of you should see the camera moving, sorry, you should see the cabin that is moving towards the wall, and then through these couple of racks the load should be lower down. Okay, I'm gonna tell you already now that this is not going to work very well because the system in practice doesn't work very well, but I want to try to show you the demonstration because so you can see how much things are working in practice, and then we can do some consideration. So I'm just gonna put the whole thing in, and you can see that this is lifting up. You're not gonna see it very well because it's not going to lift up that much, but you will see some movement, and you can see here that it's going up. And now what happens is that I went through the half of the plate. Now that I'm going back to the second half, you will see that this cabin is gonna go back to its original position, while this was supposed to be lower down. Now unfortunately you can see that the system doesn't work very well, but I think it's due to the limitations of the build. The whole purpose, I'm gonna show you anyway, and I'm gonna show you for a bit longer. You can see that what's happening in practice is that this plate is and the way you arrange the distribution of these racks on the plate is supposed to program different sequences of movements for this whole system. It doesn't really work very well. I tried also to reproduce part of these examples that are here on the pages, but they don't really work. So this is another reason why I wanted to show you, make a video out of this build. It was to show you that it's a very interesting and original build. So I'm gonna move a bit to conclusions now. It's a very original and interesting build. There's a couple of very interesting concepts that have been implemented in this model. The very first one is a very interesting one about how to gear down this whole system in order to get this whole model to move to a certain speed. And then there is this very original concept of trying to manually program through this plate the movement of the build. Very interesting, but unfortunately something that doesn't really work in practice. I don't know if it is me missing something, but I've been spending a bit of time on trying to understand how the system works, and that's this type of configuration is the best I could get out of it. So adding more parts here and there was really putting the system to a stall, because there's some gears inside here that are rotating in the opposite direction. So what happens is that when some of the gears engage with some of the racks, they're just gonna go into a stall pretty much. So not very well. So guys, I hope you liked it. I hope this review with the explanations of the features of this build was satisfying. This is not the only build I did already about this book. There is I did also this other one a few months ago, and there is a video for it as well. So if you have a look in the descriptions down below, you're gonna find the link to it. And I'm planning to do others over these next few weeks, so feel free to subscribe, rate and comment, guys, and stay tuned, because there's going to be more videos coming about this book. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, and hope to see you soon.